Hi, I'm Em, and welcome back to our series on habitat gardening for birds with BirdLife Australia.
Hi, my name's Mars. Today we're going to be refreshing this garden bed here. So to start with, I'm going to be clearing out some of the old exhausted matter post-summer, and then we're going to be replanting it in the spaces that are available. Any living roots that are still within the soil will promote the soil to remain alive as our new plants are settling in. So any larger roots, I'm just going to be snipping out piece by piece, and then I can remove most of this in one go. There we go. And we reveal there's a little bit of space under here that would be perfect for planting. There we go. And we've got a nice little space here we can work with. Some of the plants we'll be preserving is the convolvulus off to the side just here, and we've also got some wallaby grass in amongst. We will be keeping the brachyscome at the back, which we have cut short, and now we are ready to lay out our plants and figure out the arrangement. I'm going to be putting in a couple of colours, so I'll stick some in maybe there and perhaps just here. I've got some small brachyscomes, so I'll be scattering them about. I might stick one around here, I might stick the second one back here. I don't want to make it too neat and organised, I want it to appear natural, but we'll be scattering it as we see fit. This plant here is a cascader, so I'll be thoughtfully placing it close to the edge in an area where it won't get too much foot traffic, so it can gently cascade over the edge of the pot. This little beauty I'll be sticking in a nice central position so it can be appreciated. So now that the plants are approximately laid out where we'd like them, I'm going to start digging some holes. First and foremost, I'll start with the more sensitive ones. I've got a trowel with me, but as this is a pot with a plant already existing in it, I'm going to be really careful not to disturb the already alive root system. So I'll be using a trowel partially, but I'll also be using my hand. Now, protecting the side of the plant, I'm just going to get it out of the pot. And go. And I'm going to plant it front and centre. I'll be using the soil that's already in existence in this pot, but I will be adding some fresh soil on top just to give it a new growth spurt coming into autumn. Now the same for this goodenia just here. And so I'll be digging a little hole for this goodenia where it can cascade happily over the edge of the pot in a really proud position. I don't need to loosen up any of the root system, just having it nicely exposed like that is perfectly enough. And I'm going to position it in a spot where it can begin to cascade naturally, and I'll fill in the soil around. Okay, so now that we've got the plants in place, there's a couple of steps left to go. I'm going to add in a little bit of native fertiliser. This will help give them a boost of growth. I'm going to take a scoop about this much, and I'm just going to lightly sprinkle it around the whole space. All of these plants will appreciate the same type of fertiliser, which is just your basic Australian mix. It's got slightly different ratio to your normal exotic and pot plant fertiliser, but it'll do just enough for these guys. So that should be sufficient, and then we're on to adding a little bit more soil. I've got my soil here. This is, again, native Australian soil mix. You can pick it up at most nursery supplies. And I'm just going to be adding 1 to 2 centimetres on top, trying not to get any of the foliage covered. I just want to give it a little refresh before we stick some mulch on top. The potting mix also has a little bit of fertiliser in it, so it'll give them a boost as well. But I am being thoughtful that this is a large pot, it'll require a little bit more volume, and when the plant's root system develops, it'll spread throughout the pot. It's helpful to have a bit of extra in there. That should do it thereabouts, and now we're ready to put a bit of mulch on top. The mulch I've got with me is just a basic Australian mix of mulch, so I've gotten it from a local supplier, but it's just a mixture of the local indigenous plants in the area, so it's mostly eucalypts and some she oaks, things of that nature. I prefer to use Australian trees as mulch as opposed to pine and things like that, as it can tend to turn the soil in pH, and the plants will respond much better to the mulch that they've come to enjoy over their evolution. That's a really sweet spot where the mulch will help protect the soil from dehydrating in the hot weather. It'll also help to reinvigorate the microorganisms living in the soil and give them a bit of food to break down. And it's also helpful not to have too deep a mulch layer, because you can end up smothering the plants. If the mulch is too deep, the plants won't be able to take up as much moisture, as it'll be trapped in the mulch up top. That should do everyone pretty nicely. So now everyone's sitting a little bit higher to the rim of the pot, but they're not all the way at the top. And that's helpful because it means when we water, the water will be able to pool before it sinks, and it won't flow over the edges. The last stage is watering them in. I like to go nice and slowly to ensure that the water is freely draining all the way through the plants. And it's as simple as that. You can apply these planting techniques to any spot in your garden, whether it be a nature strip or in-ground planting out the back. For ongoing plant care, you're going to want to be mindful of watering, weeding, and feeding, and keep an eye out for any pests and diseases. But other than that, happy planting.
If you're enjoying this video series, click the link below to watch BirdLife's Habitat Gardening course.